Howdy! We are entering a new month, which means that I am now here to do a monthly reading wrap-up. So, I read 13 books in the month of May, which is so surprising to me because I got into like 2 reading slumps this past month, but I read more books this month than I have any other month in the year. So let me just go into like the different genres that I read. So I read 2 dark contemporary / rockstar romances, 3 mafia romances, 4 mangas, 3 young adult paranormal romances, and then 1 adult like paranormal shifter romance. Yeah, so I'm just gonna hop into the books. So the first 2 books that I finished were Carian books. During the month of April, I really went into a Carian binge. I got really far into the Ashes and Embers series. And yeah, I read Loving Storm by Carian. Now, this is kind of like a sequel to her book Storm. He is the guitarist for the Ashes and Embers band, and I can't really say too much about this book since it is a sequel. You should read the other books in the series before you get to this one, or else it won't be nearly as impactful. I gave that book 5 stars. It was really good. It was a novella length, and yeah, I just really enjoyed it. It was nice to see Storm and Ivy again. And then the last book in the Ashes and Embers series that I read was Asher. And yeah, this is the last book in the Ashes and Embers series so far. I feel like she's definitely going to keep writing in this series because I think there's one more brother and also a sister that hasn't been paired up yet. But yeah, this book I also gave 5 stars. I probably cried like 2 or 3 times while reading that book. I was kind of sad because whenever I was reading Loving Storm and Asher, I wanted to vlog for that week, but I never got around to it. I do have 2 more Carian books that I need to read to finish her backlist. So I'm definitely going to do a reading vlog, and I'm going to kind of like wrap up the Ashes and Embers series. Like I'll go ahead and like discuss Loving Storm and Asher in more detail in that upcoming video. But yeah, they were both really good. I gave them 5 stars. During the month of May, there was also the Mafia Romance Readathon, and I participated in it. It was hosted by a handful of people. I'll go ahead and like link everything down below. I'll also link all of the like previous vlogs that I mentioned in this video. But yeah, that was super fun because I personally don't read a lot of mafia romance, which doesn't make sense because I tend to like darker themes in romance. But yeah, so I did read 3 books for it. I read Ruthless Stranger by Maggie, Ruthless Creatures by J.T. Geissinger, and Savage Lover by Sophie Lark. Out of the 3 books that I read for the readathon, Ruthless Stranger was definitely my favorite out of the 3. I gave it a 4.5 star. This is like a age gap Russian mafia romance, but I don't know how I'm trying to phrase this. Basically, our heroine, she goes through a really rough divorce, and to celebrate, her group of friends take her to Vegas to like, you know, have a good time and celebrate her divorce. And they're trying to convince her to like let loose, have a little fun, and she admits that she'll only have like a really fun night with someone under the condition that she's blindfolded and no names or faces are exchanged. And our hero in this book overhears it, and he's really intrigued, and he's able to convince her friend group to like have her have like a night with him, and things escalate from there, and things heat up, and they split ways, and they really regret not telling each other who they were, but then they meet up in Chicago again. Yeah, it was really, really good. It was super, super steamy. The reason why I didn't give that one a 4 star was only because, or the only reason why I didn't give it a 5 star is because it, like, parts of the book almost felt like I was reading like a telenovela or something. It was so dramatic and intense that I was like, this is all happening so fast. But I do really love that series. That series was also, or I really do love that book too. That book was also really nice because both the hero and heroine are older characters. I believe the heroine's like in her late 30s and he's in his mid 40s. And I don't know, it's just nice reading about older characters in romance books. The next book that I had read, I believe it was actually Savage Lover that I had read next. This is by Sophie Lark. It's a part of her Brutal Birthright series. Sophie Lark is huge in the romance community, I feel like, especially like people that are into mafia romance. I like her writing. I've only read the first 3 books in this series, but this one wasn't my favorite. Savage Lover follows Nero, who is a part of the Italian mafia, but I can't remember the heroine's name. And yeah, I didn't really, like, I liked the book, but I only gave it a 3.5 stars because it felt like it was too heavy on the mafia elements, and our hero and heroine were too apart. Like, they weren't together in the book as often as I would have liked them to be. But yeah, it was still good. And the last book that I had read for the Mafia Romance Readathon was Ruthless Creatures by J.T. Geissinger. I forgot to say, if you see me looking down, it's because I have my reading journal down here. But yeah, Ruthless Creatures by J.T. Geissinger. I gave it 4 stars. This one was so fun. I listened to the audiobook for this one and I really, really enjoyed it. I really loved the voice actors in it. This one basically follows our heroine. She's kind of like still grieving the loss of her husband who went missing 3 years prior, and this man comes into her town and moves next door to her, and turns out he's there and he's tied with the mafia, and him and the heroine get involved with one another, and there's lots of secrets and stuff that comes forward. And yeah, this one, I think out of the 3 books that I read, this one was actually the steamiest. If y'all are into dirty talk and praise, this one was really good. But yeah, those are the 3 books that I read for the Mafia Romance Readathon, and they're all 3 a part of series that I would really love to continue soon. The next books that I read for the month were actually manga. So I read the Tokyo Mew Mew series. I consider like each book in a manga series as like I count it as a book for my TBR. And so I read like I read the omnibus version of this manga. So there were 3 volumes of Tokyo Mew Mew. And then the 4th volume that I had was Tokyo Mew Mew a la mode, which is basically like a sequel. And so yeah, I counted those as 4 books. I rated this series as a whole a 4 star. It's really, really cute. This series was super popular whenever I was in elementary and middle school. And I remember watching the manga a little bit when I was a lot younger. But I remember watching the anime when I was a lot younger, but I never read the manga. And I just picked this up from work. I worked for the public library. And yeah, I just binged it in 1 week. There isn't much to say about it. The plot's actually really silly. But, you know, it's a really cute romance. There's like girls with cat ears and like animal ears. There's like bad guy aliens. There's magical girl fighting powers. Yeah, I don't know. It was just really fun. And it was nice to pick up something that was kind of light and fluffy after reading so much mafia romance. After that, I did read 3 young adult paranormal romances. I'm actually starting to really like young adult books. It's not that I like hated young adult, it's that I just never read the genre. I didn't read a lot whenever I was in school. And so I feel like a lot of like really cool young adult series started coming out whenever I was in high school, but since I wasn't reading, I missed out on it. And so now as an adult, I'm reading a lot of YA. And yeah, I realized that I'm really liking young adult fantasy or young adult paranormal fantasy romance. It was just a lot of fun. So the first one that I read was Blood and Honey by Shelby Mahurin. This is the second book in the series. The first book in the series is called Serpent and Dove. This was actually a buddy read that I did with Heather from Heather's Happily Ever Afters. Her channel will be in the description below. Yeah, she picked up the first book, she liked it, and she asked if we could buddy read the second one together, and we did. It was a lot of fun. We're definitely gonna buddy read the third book in this series once it comes out. Since this is a second book, I can't really talk too much about it, but this is basically a fantasy world where magic is forbidden by like the main society because it's very religious, but there's also witches that are hiding out and trying to reclaim their land. And this is a romance between a witch and a witch hunter. Really, really good. I love the world lore in this series, and I love how magic works. I highly recommend checking it out if you really love like books that are good at both fantasy and action, and also just like nice cuddly romance stuff. And yeah, I gave that one a 4.5. I actually enjoyed it a little bit more than the first book. The next YA that I read was A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee. Now, this is, I guess it's YA paranormal romance. It's like young adult, dark academia, and it's one of those where you can't tell if it's psychological horror or paranormal. I only gave this book a 2.5 stars. This is a sapphic romance. I went in very excited for this, and yeah, it just felt a little flat for me. Mostly because I did not like how this book ended. This is not a true romance in that there is like a happily ever after. It's definitely more of like a suspense thriller type book, which is fine, but the reason why I didn't like it is because like I didn't like the twist ending. It just didn't like excite me. I was just like, oh, okay. And I felt like I was getting bored during parts of this book, and I felt like it was dragging on. But yeah, I mean, if you want to check it out, if you like suspense thriller or books that have like dark academia vibes, then yeah, go ahead, check it out. Just because I didn't like it doesn't mean you won't, right? Right, and then the third book that I finished during my like young adult week was Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerri Maniscalco? Sorry, I'm probably pronouncing her name wrong. This is my 5-star young adult read for the month. I loved this book. This is basically like, it's a fantasy world that takes place in Sicily, I think during the 18th century or something like that. And there are witches, of course, but witches are still like kind of in hiding, because, you know, there's like witch hunters and stuff. But yeah, in this world there are werewolves, there are vampires, and there are also demons. It is a enemies to lovers romance between this witch and a prince of hell. So this book was so cool because it was fantasy, but it was also like a murder mystery. So basically the heroine, she is a twin, and there are rumors of these really young witches being murdered in a almost like ritualistic way, kind of like a serial killer or something, but there might be a deeper meaning behind it. And the main, what is her name? I don't know. Anyway, basically the main heroine, her twin sister is one of the victims, and in order to seek revenge and to find out who did it, she tries to contact a demon to help her, and she accidentally summons one of the princes of hell. Yes, there are 7 princes for the underworld, and they're very dangerous and powerful, and she kind of gets tied up with him on accident, but also purposefully. This book was so good. I loved the like murder mystery aspect of it, and I loved how prickly the heroine and the demon prince are to each other. Their like chemistry was just so good. I really wanted to get to the second book during the month of May, but yeah, I didn't get to it, but I'm super excited to continue with it. I think the third book comes out this year. But yeah, I think it's like my new favorite young adult series. I loved it. And the last book that I finished for the month was Rabid, The Savage Spirit of Seneca Rain by Ivy Asher and Raven Kennedy. So, this is a adult shifter paranormal romance. And I want to say that it's kind of like an Omega-verse book. Now, I had never read Omega-verse before. Whenever I looked into what Omega-verse is, I think it primarily is attached to like male-male romances, but I don't really know. So I don't know if this is like a true Omega-verse, but the saucy times kind of involved things that have to do with Omega-verse, if y'all get what I'm saying. Like the appendages. And I don't like that. There's nothing against, I know tons of people are into Omega-verse stuff, but I had never read it and it never appealed to me. And so whenever I started reading and I got to like a part that had that, I was like, I don't know how I feel about it. I gave this book a 3-star, mostly because, yeah, I don't really like the sexual dynamics in the book, but also I gave it a 3-star because it's like, the plot's predictable, but I love the plot setup for this because it's just like a typical shifter romance thing, and like werewolves are my favorite paranormal creatures, so I will like always read it even if it's the same kind of storyline. But basically, I think this is like a spin-off, or it's a part of a series. I can't even remember what it's called. I think it's called like The Kingdom of Wolves, and it's like multiple authors write in this series, but you could read this one as a standalone. So I picked it up also because the cover was really pretty. And yeah, it's just basically about this werewolf girl that's a part of like a really, really bad pack. The alpha is trying to get her to submit to him to be his mate. There's tons of triggers in this book, including like somnophilia, sexual assault, so really be mindful of the triggers going into this. Lots of violence and violence against like women. Parts of it were really hard to read, actually. But yeah, I really did enjoy it besides the like sexy bits. The really good thing about this book too is that it kind of reads like someone going through the process of trying to heal from complex trauma. And as somebody that has complex PTSD, reading it was kind of hard, but it was also really empowering to see somebody, you know, trying to work through the awful things that happened to them and, you know, coming out on the end a better and stronger person. I also really liked the actual romance aspect of this book. The hero is obviously like super alpha, but our heroine, the reason why the book is called Rabid is because of the traumatic things that happened to her whenever she was first getting like her ability to shift. Her wolf is literally rabid. Like, it's easy for her to like act out and go feral because her nervous system, both for her wolf and for herself, is, you know, you go through hypervigilance. And so the hero is able to like, you know, tit for tat match the heroine's like anger and fear and get her to like a steady, you know, level. And yeah, I don't know, it was really sweet. I think I'm gonna continue with the series. I think I picked up the first book in it, so. But yeah, it's just your typical shifter romance. It's a lot of fun. I always enjoy a good werewolf story. But yeah, that was it, guys. I felt like I rushed through that really fast. Wrap-up videos are hard to film because it's like trying to dumb down the books as fast as possible while also giving a lot of information. I can understand why people who read like 50 books a month don't do wrap-up videos. But yeah, that was it. I had a really good reading week. That was the most books that I have read in 1 month for the year so far, and I'm excited to keep on reading. But yeah, thanks for joining me, guys. If you want, you could just leave me a bookish emoji. It could, I don't know, be the stack of books, an open book, whatever. It just has to be a book. But yeah, I'm gonna go. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.